Hello, and welcome to Small Screen Stories. I hope you guys are doing well. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. We've got WarnerMedia, we've got Jason Kilar, we've got what else? We've got Loki, we've got all sorts of the Bad Batch as well. We're going to be talking about tonight. I hope you guys are all doing very well. And it's just I'm on my own today, but Clint will be joining us in a bit. And Sean Harrigan is already in the chat saying Kilar's running out with a bomb, trying to get rid of it before it blows up. There's birds. I mean, that does sound pretty. That sounds like something else, doesn't it? I think it sounds a bit like this, doesn't it? Yes, I think it does. I think that's what you're alluding to. Yes, it's just me tonight. As I said, there's no James, so I'm going to be trying to be doing the everything. Really, that's going to be interesting, isn't it? And then Reese75 is in the chat, and he says, "Hello there." So I will try and bring that up for you, Reese. I've got to go through all of these. This is difficult to do whilst I'm also trying to actually talk, but I will get that up for you once I find the clip, and here it is.
Hello there. Hello there.
I'm now Jamesing myself. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, so as I said, we will be talking about Jason Kilar and possibly leaving WarnerMedia. That was an article that was put out today in the Hollywood Reporter, and we'll also be going over. Maybe we'll be possibly doing some reviews. We will be doing a short review of the Bad Batch episode 7 and Loki as well, which I think we'll be spending a lot of time on Loki. And we've also got Leroy Kong in the chat. I hope you guys I hope you're very well, Leroy. He says, "Hello, great live. All these clowns at Warner Brothers should all go." Yes, well, it looks like they probably will do. They probably will be going at some point in the not so distant future. And Reese says, just play every clip so you know which one's which. And I probably will have to do that.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm Jamesing myself. And I hope you guys are doing very well. And I think what I'm going to be doing is starting off kind of going over what happened, why people think Jason Kilar might be leaving. And actually, Lords of the Long Box says low-key review of Loki. Possibly. And Dan Zig's in the comments saying, "Good evening, Edward. Missed you, buddy." Thank you very much, Dan. We missed you too. And Roberta Bobby Anderson's also in the chat and says, "Hello. Hello to you, Roberta. I hope you're doing well." And Reese is here saying, "Have you watched Sweet Tooth yet?" Yes, I have. And I love that show. It's actually, I would say it's probably one of my favorite shows of the year so far. And I'm sorry if I'm rather disheveled. It's very hot in France. It's really, really hot. So I do apologize about that. I probably should have done something beforehand. But you know what? I wanted to get this show on the road as quickly as possible. And Leroy Kong says Loki is awesome. Now, I will probably talk about that in more detail when Clint's on the show. But yeah, Loki. Now, was Loki awesome? I'm not sure if I'd say it was awesome. It was interesting, I think is the word I would use. It was promising, I think is a word I would use. I got a weird impression that the show was almost like a stage play in a weird way. I really felt that it was like a double-hander for most of it between Tom Hiddleston, who's brilliant as Loki, always has been brilliant as Loki, and actually Owen Wilson, who I thought was really good in this episode. I thought Owen Wilson was fantastic, and someone that I'm just really, really happy that I'm really, really happy that they cast him in the role. I think he's fantastic in that role. And here he says, Danzig does say it's hot in the UK. Shocker. Yeah, it's actually really hot. And especially at the moment. So I do apologize for the way I am looking. I'm rather embarrassed about it, actually. Reese75 says, that cliffhanger, though, for Sweet Tooth. I loved every episode. Ended up staying up all night watching them after last week's live stream. Yeah, and it looks like Sweet Tooth Season 2 is happening. That was something that I think I posted on the site. And I have to say, I am a massive fan of the comics, first off. I think they're much darker than what they ended up going with in the actual show, but I think the show in itself is just really good on its own. It's a really good show, And I like the fact that they made it a bit more kind of kid friendly, because I wouldn't say the comics are very kid friendly at all. But there's something about the show. As a mosquito goes past my my camera, yeah, it is really hot here. Yeah, and it's something that that I think they did really well. They did really well changing the tone of the story, fitting it for a more. I mean, Netflix obviously wanted to make this more for kids, and you can really see that when you watch the show. So I really think, and yeah, and Reese then says the beginning reminded me a bit of Zach's Dawn of the Dead, and that's interesting. Actually, that's a good thing. That's a good thing to point out. I never really thought about it. It's interesting watching something that's about a pandemic, watching it now. So I do believe it was shot probably right at the beginning of the pandemic. I'm gonna have to get a towel. I'm sorry, because I am that hot. It's really hot here, guys. So hot. It's like 30 degrees. Which I'm not sure how much. I mean, that's centigrade, so I'm not sure how much that is in Fahrenheit. It's hot and it's unusual for France. Yeah, so it's one of those shows that I think if you haven't checked it out, I would suggest you go and check it out now. But one of the things that I think that we really need to get onto right now is this news about Jason Kilar, and one person that will probably be actually a lot of help in answering some of your questions is this man here, Clint Baker.
Hey! What's happening, man?
I'm good. How are you? I'm very hot.
I'm sorry, man. That's the worst. Being hot is the worst.
We're going through a mini heat wave here, and it's like 33 degrees. It was 33 degrees here, which is a lot in I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit. I'm going to be honest. It's just very hot. And
yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I'm sure you're used to it living in Texas. We're not used to it living here in France.
One time I was in Germany, and it was in Berlin, and it was like 40 degreers.
Yeah,
it was miserable. It was, of course, the first time I decided to go to Europe. It was ridiculously hot. But yeah, yeah, the weird thing is that Europe doesn't always, depending on where you're at, doesn't have the infrastructure for that. Like we have ceiling fans everywhere you go. Yeah. You go to the store, you walk in, and it's super cold, and then you walk out and you sweat for a few seconds. You get in your car and you got the air conditioner. But in Europe, it's like you're just hot wherever you go. Yeah. So I really feel for you right now, man. I wanted to open a. I'm sorry, I just drank a Red Bull, but I wanted to open a fan store in Europe for when it gets hot and get rich on that. So okay,
that would do really well. That would do really well. Trust me, I need one now, but you can't have a fan going during a live stream.
I've got one going right now. right above me, I have a fan going.
Yeah. That's probably better. My one is behind me, and honestly, it would sound terrible. So no, I'm not going to start putting that on. I'm just going to have to sweat, and you guys are going to have to deal with it. I'm sorry about that,
guys. But, it's because he loves you guys. He's putting himself in misery for you guys.
Yeah, exactly. But one thing I really wanted to talk to you tonight about was the whole. Actually, this was an article that you sent me from the Hollywood Reporter. And I hadn't seen it. yet. And I was reading it. I was like, there's so much in this article. So to kickstart it, the article is basically suggesting that Jason Kilar's on his way out of WarnerMedia, and this happens ever since this is kind of been ongoing ever since the merger between WarnerMedia and Discovery, and they became one of the worst named companies in the world in Warner Bros. Discovery. It's a terrible name. It's still not finalized yet. But the new CEO, David Zaslav, is that how you say his name? Zaslav?
David Zaslav, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it should be Discover Brothers. What I mean, but
that's so much better.
Nobody asks me, but anyway, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, but that's a much better name. They should listen to you, Clint. Everyone should listen to Clint. But yeah, basically, he's now in charge. Which is going to be difficult for Jason Kilar, who is the CEO of WarnerMedia. So where does that put him? And sources close to the Hollywood Reporter, actually close to Zaslav himself, told the Hollywood Reporter his singular focus is getting the deal approved quickly. He's spending his time on how he could get it done in less than a year. He feels the company in flux is not good. And then the article went on to say that through Zaslav, Zaslav can't make personnel decisions. The consensus among the industry observers is that once the deal closes, WarnerMedia CEO Jason Kilar will depart, and WarnerMedia Studios CEO Ann Sarnoff may go too, which I'm pretty sure a lot of Snyderverse fans would be very happy to hear. What do you make of this news?
Yeah, excitement, man. I think it's I think it would be. I was kind of daydreaming about it. I sent you this article, and I was halfway watching TV, and then just kind of grazing over different stuff. And I go, and then all of a sudden I said, "Whoa, this is cool!" I really started focusing on this, and I was thinking about it, and I was trying to think if I was working in Warner Brothers, where would my mindset be? Would it be like, there's two ways. You could either be like, hey, I'm going to do a really good job so that maybe I won't get axed when this thing goes through. Or you could also be like, we're all getting fired anyway, so who cares? You know what I mean? Like what's the point? Like, and I feel like everyone's just tapping their foot, waiting for the bell to ring so they can get out of there. You know, like it's weird. Also, it's like, you know, people live for their work. Most people, you know, they love their families and stuff, but what you do at work to feel fulfilled in life, you have to feel like you're producing and getting somewhere. Well, maybe half of the people out there just go kind of zone out like on Office Space, but I mean, like these creatives and these people that are competitive people that move up in the ranks, like, how do you go to work every day with uncertainty of the future, you know, and something that takes a year because a bunch of red tape and stuff? It's like, that would be really tough. And it's like, if I do anything, I could just get fired and some new guy's going to come in. And whenever a new person comes in, they want to establish dominance and flex their muscles. So they change everything. It's just how human beings are. So it's really weird. And it makes me wonder what's going to happen. You know, you might get a new guy that comes in and says, we're doing the Snyderverse just to show that I'm the new boss in town. You know what I mean? And like, who knows? Like, who knows what's going to happen? I just heard millions of voices scream in excitement when I said that. But yeah. But I mean, that's just how it is. So this is complete uncertainty. And man, I've never spoken for this long without a clip interrupting me. This is weird.
It's good.
Yeah.
But it's not good.
I miss James already, but I miss the applause that I'm not going to get here in a minute. But it's. But but it's a weird situation to be in for sure. Go ahead. I didn't mean to ramble so long.
No, but you're completely right. It's such a weird situation to be in. But weirdly enough, like AT&T kind of did the same thing. They kind of came in and they were like, we're going to greenlight the Snyderverse and kind of go over everybody. One of the things about Jason Kilar that's kind of a bit, I feel for the guy because I actually think he's actually not done a terrible job. There were elements of his time. I mean, he's still technically there, but the whole putting all the movies out onto HBO Max was something that, you know, a lot of especially filmmakers didn't appreciate, and that was a Kilar decision. But again, it probably wasn't his decision to do it, to do it the way they did it. I mean, I'm not sure how much of that he was really involved with, especially just the awful PR nightmare that came after that. I'm not sure how much of that was down to him.
Is he the one that came from Hulu?
Yes, he is. That's
okay.
He was at Hulu originally, and he did a really good job there. And then he went over. He was brought in by Stanky, which is such a terrible name. He's the executive over at AT&T. But I really do think that just looking for as an out, like I have been asking around about this, but again, I haven't really been able to get any kind of solid information on what's going on. But it does sound a lot to me like it's just a butting of heads between Kilar and Zaslav, which makes sense because they're both people that want to be at the very top of the companies they work at. And I mean, it looks to me as though they have similar visions, but you know, they're both. It's difficult. You don't want to be the CEO of a company and then have someone come in and be basically above you. It's not really what you're aiming for. So I think he might be looking elsewhere. And as for Ann Sarnoff, I really do think she's gone. I think as soon as they can, I think Zaslav will be getting rid of her because she's done terribly in that position. And it's a position that's it's a weird position that she was put in. It was a made up one. There was never a WarnerMedia studio CEO. It just doesn't make any sense. That technically means she's in charge of Warner Brothers. But I mean, I think a lot of people would be very happy to see the back of her, especially. What do you think?
It's such a convoluted, huge departmental company, like so many departments stuck together. Who's in charge, who's overseeing what, whose thing bleeds over into another thing. Like, okay, we got Batman in the theater, but also on a streaming service. You're in charge of the streaming service, you're in charge, and now we got things coming out in the theater and on a streaming service at the same time, because this guy over here says so. So then you got Casey Bloys, chief content officer of HBO. I just like saying his name, but
Casey
it's like it's such a mess. But again, I like to imagine what it would be like to be in their positions to try and understand. And I was thinking, and I spoke about this on a Streaming Wars video that I did on my own channel. That was a shameless plug, but
that's fine.
And I've thought about this, and I was like, not Casey Bloys, but Jason Kilar. He came in and he's kind of a maverick. He's changing the thing. And it's like great things happen when innovators and people that go against the grain and take risks, when people do that, great things happen. And that's the kind of guy that this guy is, I think. I don't think he's necessarily that bad.
No.
Just because he pissed everyone off. He was because here's the deal. He was in a time in history that's never been seen before. I mean, like all kinds of things have changed. The 90-day to 45-day window of when things are going to be in the theater to streaming. There's all kinds of new things that have come out about this. There's all kinds of companies that have gone broke and all sorts of things. And you had Warner Brothers, which is cash poor, hemorrhaging money, and AT&T spent all of this money, billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars on all this stuff. And then all of a sudden this random occurrence happened and they don't get any return on any of that. So now they're losing their butts. That's why they sold it in the first place, because they're like, you know what? It's going to cost so much to create content for these new streaming things. We can't afford to mess with this. We've already lost too much money. Let's just get back to phones. You know what I mean? So internet service and quit messing. That's why they sold it in the first place. But so you got this guy, Kilar, comes in here and he says, okay, look, we don't have movie theaters right now. And at the time, like now, movie theaters are starting to open up, and you know, you've got Quiet Place 2 kicking the door open after Kong and Godzilla did and all that. Things are starting to snowball into like theater sales and stuff. But at the time, you didn't have anything like that. It's just like, okay, what do I do? What if this thing? I thought the pandemic was going to last a month and then everything would be back to normal. And it's been a year. You know what I mean? Like we all did. Nobody knew. So this guy is put in this position. He's like, okay, well, I don't have money there. I got to do something. I have a lot of experience in streaming. How can I get more subscribers? I don't even have the infrastructure of international yet. I've just got the United States. What can I do? What can we do? Everyone is cranking on stuff. Disney's kicking our ass with really good stuff. Netflix has been the king. And like, what do we do here? And so he says, you know what? These movies aren't making any money anyway. People are scared to go to the theater. Let's just release them online. At least we'll get some money in subscriptions, maybe. And you know. And there's been two different times recently that instead of going to see recently A Quiet Place 2, well, you know, I watched it at home, and for the price of a movie ticket, you get a month's service. So it's like, I mean, it's good for the customer, and yeah, it's a big loss. Yes, you're throwing a bunch of money on the table, but like at that point, this pandemic could have lasted 2 years. You know what I mean? He doesn't know. So he's just made a gamble. And I'm rambling, but this guy's taking a risk. And if it had worked and they'd made a ton of money and gotten more subs and all that, maybe he would have been looked at as a hero. You know what I mean? If the pandemic lasted another year and nothing came of it, he would have probably been looked at as a hero. I think if it worked.
Yeah, but don't you think they will look at him as being actually quite successful anyway? Because like HBO Max has done really good numbers considering it's not available in a lot of different countries around the world. And the fact of the matter is, I mean, we posted this on Small Screen last week, I think, is that the Zack Snyder's Justice League is the highest performing movie on HBO Max. That comes from Flix Patrol. Again, their metrics are a bit weird because they do try and they look at a lot of different things. It's not just solely based on views, but it's actually the closest metric we have to any sort of actual metric on how well things are doing on streaming services. It's the only one that does anything really, I think, half decent on it. I mean, we have seen things come out from other places like Samba TV and stuff, but that's actually very much US focused and doesn't really take into account worldwide, like how well things are doing worldwide and stuff like that. And there are also caveats to that as well. But he is someone that really came in and I think changed. HBO Max wouldn't be where it is today without him, without Kilar.
Who's the guy? I don't have my notes in front of me with the execs names. The guy used to be at New Line who was above Walter Hamada. Toby Emmerich. I think he's the one who has actually approved the Snyderverse thing. I've read an article where Snyder said that he called him and that they went and they talked and discussed it. So I mean, Kilar's going to get some credit for the Snyderverse, but let's make sure Toby Emmerich gets his due on that one. But anyway, go ahead. I didn't interrupt you.
No, you are right. Emmerich was the one that reached out to Snyder. But again, this is Snyder said a lot of stuff. It's difficult to keep track of of some of the stuff he says. But I really do. I do think that I wouldn't worry. I don't think Kilar is worried about his future. Really, I think he'll go into another job and he'll do fine there. I actually think someone like Ann Sarnoff might be a bit more worried about it because she's literally got nothing to show out of her time at WarnerMedia. I do wonder about Walter Hamada's position moving forward because he's really not had a win. Like, hopefully for him, like the Batman will do well because, and we were looking at it the other day. Like, he's not actually down as an executive producer on lots of the movies. Most of the ones he's down on are the James Wan films, and then like Blue Beetle and Our Man is the other one that he's attached to. What's going to happen to those movies after this? Who knows? Who knows?
The real question is Toby Emmerich gonna be out of there? Or is
I think he's gone. I think he's gone.
Because if he's gone, then you might lose Walter Hamada because that's his buddy. That's like he's like his mentor. He worked under him at New Line Cinema, and then over here he put him in place over there. So it's which is something I thought was interesting. I was like, oh, that's his guy. Okay, Walter Hamada is his guy. So like that guy shelters Hamada, I think. And they've worked together for years. At the very least they're buddies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. I'll bet you nothing's going to really happen until not much until the transfer of power and the new money comes in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They canceled the Trench and the other thing that they were doing.
So, yeah, they cancelled Ava DuVernay's New Gods film as well, which was another. They're two Walter Hamada productions that he greenlit and things he was very excited for. But I mean, honestly, yeah, you are right. Nothing's going to really happen until this deal officially goes through. So Zaslav is obviously trying to get this to go as quickly as possible because he wants to just get to work ASAP. Really, for him, it's really important. They obviously see this as a huge investment, as something that's got huge potential, which it does. Warner Brothers is one of the biggest movie studios left after Amazon's purchase of MGM Studios. It's a really interesting time in Hollywood right now. Things are really happening, and I wouldn't have predicted a lot of it, to be honest, before the pandemic. But I think the pandemic's really changed things as well. I do wonder about that. But let's have a look at what some of the people are saying in the comments. We've got Danzig says Mikey Sutton has renamed Zaslav to Lava Man. Catchy, I didn't know that. And he also says Sarnoff leaving sounds like a win-win. Of course it does. We all know what you mean there, Dan. I'm not going to bring up the clip because it's going to take me too long to try and find it. Leroy Kong says they should clean house, get rid of all these clowns. So a lot of people really want these people gone. Danzig then says Hamada is having a fire sale and putting his upcoming slate on HBO Max. Blue Beetle, Batgirl, maybe Zatanna, and Hourman. Yeah, it looks very much like that way. And then Sean Harrigan says it's going to be a long year. It is going to be a long year. It's going to be a long year to see what happens, because a lot of these productions are going to be put in limbo now. Because, I mean, if you're involved in them and you've got this merger going through, it's like, well, do we go ahead with it, or what's going to happen when Discovery eventually does become basic? What's going to happen is, I think, is David Zaslav is going to be in charge of everything, and what's going to happen once he really starts getting full power. And official Phil Millen, I think that's how you say it. The Flash 2022 movie has gotten pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Yes, yeah, probably. That's yes. I mean, it's a movie
happening.
That's coming out.
It's happening.
Yeah, that's happening. So that's the one that's happening. And then Danzig says Kilar feels like the fall guy. I agree. I really do agree on that. And Reese75 says Toby was forced by AT&T to call Zach and approve it. Possibly the case. Yeah, that possibly was what happened. I mean, the going story is that this is an AT&T thing, that the Snyderverse was something they really wanted to happen, but it has been said that Toby Emmerich did call Snyder, so that is something that's out there. And Leroy Kong then says Walter Hamada should go, and he adds, with the Flash will fail. I don't know. I don't think it will. I think the Flash will actually do really well.
It's going to be good.
And I think based on Michael Keaton being in it alone, I think it's going to do really well. And then Danzig adds, I think Zaslav will want to put his own stamp on Warner Brothers and clear the board. I bring people in as well. That's what tends to happen when new people take over. They tend to just get rid and bring in their own team. And then Leroy Kong says they are all cowards and clowns. Leroy's very he's got his messaging. And then Reese says, has Clint seen Sweet Tooth? I don't know. Have you seen Sweet Tooth?
And I liked it. Weird. No,
no.
I'm just kidding. I've seen the first 2 episodes, and I need to get in and watch the rest of it. But so far, I've really enjoyed it.
It's really good, Clint. You're not wrong there. And honestly, I'm going to be honest with you, Clint. I think you're pretty much spot on all the things you like. I think you have this rather disingenuous, like people say, oh, Clint just likes everything. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think you just like good stuff, Clint. That's fine.
Here's the secret. I typically just talk about stuff that I like. I don't waste time with things I don't like for the most part. For the most part.
Danzig says thoughts on the merger completing sooner than 12 months. I personally don't think it will happen, because these things take time, and not only that, you have to. It gets quite political, especially in this sense, because it's the same with the Amazon purchase of MGM Studios. That'll take a while to happen, because governments hate monopolies, and they don't. Especially with what's going on in Hollywood, it seems like most of the studios are being owned by the same 3 companies, kind of. I mean, Apple still hasn't come in to buy one yet, which is quite surprising. But now that Amazon's involved, it looks very much like tech is going to get very involved. Big tech is going to get very involved in Hollywood.
I read an article. I glazed over an article. That means I was falling asleep. But about some people thinking Lionsgate might be the next big acquisition, but I didn't read in detail enough to really speak about it. But that's a prediction. Is Lionsgate's going to be the big one?
That would be an interesting one, because they've got a lot of big franchises. Like Lionsgate was actually the YA studio for a very long time, because they did all the Lionsgate did all the Hunger Games movies and made a lot of money out of those. And they're a big company, though. I'm surprised that. I mean, maybe that's the one Apple wanted all along. I'm pretty sure Apple will end up buying up one of these studios, at some point, especially now that Amazon's bought one. So I think that won't. I think that might happen pretty soon, actually. As far as Warner Bros. Discovery is concerned, I think we're not going to see this really become a thing, like an official thing, until at least 2023. I think it might take that long. But it's all about politics, and as Sean says, politics palooza. That's exactly what it is.
Discover
and then
Brothers.
Dan says, "Discover Brothers is a much better name, Clint. You should be in their PR department." Danzig says, "I'm surprised Sony has not been sold off." Sony does really well. Sony's very. with the Marvel deal, as I'm being attacked by mosquitoes, with the Marvel deal that they did, which was actually a genius deal on their behalf, because they literally get all of the profits of the Spider-Man movies and get Marvel to make it for them. It's like just so that Marvel can use Spider-Man in Avengers movies. It was a fantastic deal. They then did this even better deal with Netflix, where they were like, yeah, you can have the movies exclusively for they have an exclusivity window in the US alone. And it was over $1 billion. And then they went and did another deal with Disney Plus.
Not only that, but it's only a limited amount of time. I want to say 13 months. I might be off. And then after that, they can license it out to somebody else. But they give Netflix the option. They're like, cool, you get it for this long. Do you still want it? You got to pay me again. And then if they don't want it, then they go sell it to somebody else. It's brilliant. It is brilliant.
Sony has literally, out of all this, they've done such good dealings during the pandemic, because they were very much like, we're not releasing anything. Like, we're just going to push everything back. And then now, like, the slate they've got is really, really impressive. Like, Venom 2 I think looks really good. I think Morbius looks really good.
Oh yeah.
And then they've got the Spider-Man movies coming out, and then they'll have all these other Spider-Man films that they'll make after that. Honestly, they've done so well. They've done so well out of just owning literally one property, and I'm just very impressed with them, especially after what happened with the whole hacking thing with North Korea and all that business.
Oh, yeah.
They've come out of that. They've done really, really well. And then people are saying that Sony should. Reese 75 says Sony should start their own streaming service. No, they shouldn't, because they're making a shit ton of money out the other ones. It would be detrimental for Sony to go ahead and start their own one, because they'd have to spend. It costs so much money to start a streaming service. They don't care. They're just going to do deals with the other ones. They can deal with anybody. They can deal with Netflix. They can deal with Disney. They can deal with Amazon. And they do, and they make a lot of money out of it. So no, they're fine. They're doing all right. I wouldn't worry about Sony. And then Dan says, I'm just hoping they renew their deal with Disney. Oh, they'll renew that deal. They will renew that deal with Disney, and they will probably come out of it even more money than they did beforehand.
They're just printing money for them. They're just making money.
They really are, and they're being incredibly smart, because they know how important Spider-Man is to Marvel. We do mention another show quite a lot. It's the John Campea show that we are both fans of, and we both listen to John. He did say something the other day that I kind of disagreed with. He said that that Disney doesn't care about Spider-Man, and I was a bit like, no, that's wrong. Like, Disney did everything they could to get Spider-Man back, and they couldn't, because the company that owns the movie rights to Spider-Man is very, very clever, and they're not worried about money. Like, they know how much power they have. They know that they made a really good deal when they went for the when Marvel was selling off all their properties, their movie rights to their IP. Sony went in straight for Spider-Man and knew that was the one they wanted. Fox were messing around with all the X-Men, and they did pretty well out of that. But to be honest, compare it to Spider-Man, it's second rate compared to Spider-Man. Let's be honest.
Spider-Man is like Batman for DC. It's like you can have you can have a whole bunch of the same movie re-released over and over again, and people are going to still go see it. They just love that character. You know what I mean? How many Spider-Man reboots? How many Batman reboots have we had? You know what I mean? Nobody cares. We're still going to go see it. I wonder what the context was on what he was talking about, because there could be that he could have the thought like. Well, they needed to have Spider-Man appear with the Avengers and be in this universe. Now that they've gotten that out of the way, they can move on to other things. Was that what he meant?
Yeah. Or... I think it was more to do with the parks, because they recently opened, was it Avengers Campus in Disneyland, Florida, and they opened it with a big Spider-Man thing. They had Spider-Man come out, and then people were like, oh, but technically though, Disney can do whatever the hell they want with the character as far as their parks are concerned. All that Sony owns are the movie rights, and and actually any merchandising as well, I do believe that goes direct to Marvel Studios merchandising stuff. So like toys and stuff like that. That's still all Marvel. Anything that's probably movie related, like specifically to the films, is probably shared between Marvel and Sony. But then again, I'm not sure about that. I'd have to look into that. But I do know that anything that it's like the animated Spider-Man series stuff and the Spider-Man figurines and all that sort, that is all Marvel 100%. That is all Marvel. And that makes a heck of a lot of money for them. But
yeah, they even had the actor. The actor went out there at the campus.
Yeah.
Well,
it was Paul Rudd was there to open it with Anthony Mackie. I didn't see Tom Holland.
I saw Tom Holland was there. I saw a video, and these kids were all like taking pictures with the guy, and they didn't know it was him.
Yeah, and
he was posing, and then at the end he took the mask off, and everybody lost their mind. It was
that's
cool.
So cool. That's so
very cool.
Oh, but then that goes to just to show how important having Spider-Man in their movies is, because like kids just love Spider-Man, and they know that was that for me. That was, I remember thinking back to watching Captain America: Civil War. For me, the fact that Spider-Man was in it was the main reason I was going to see that film. Like I did want to see it regardless, but I was like, Spider-Man's in this, yes, I'm in. And that was very much that was for me. Spider-Man was massive. I can tell for Danzig he's massive as well, because that's literally his icon. So and it's the TV version of Spider-Man, which I love as well. So let's dip into the comments a bit before we move on. Official Filmanen says, I think Andy Muschietti is going to make a good The Flash movie. I think we both agree, don't we, Clint?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Reese75 says Disney cares about the Spider-Man name, but not about his legacy and what he stands for. I mean, I think Marvel does. I'm pretty sure Kevin Feige does. Now, Disney's another thing. Disney, we spoke about Disney before, didn't we, Clint? They're very much becoming a numbers company nowadays, which is unfortunate. And yes, and they're basically being run by marketing people. So you might have a point there. But as far as Marvel Studios is concerned and Kevin Feige, I do genuinely think that they do care about the legacy of Spider-Man. The fact that they got the casting right I'd say they got the casting right on the third time, because I think Tom Holland's a better overall Spider-Man than Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were. That's my personal take. I don't know what you think about that.
I absolutely agree with you on that. He's got the squealy voice. He's got the teenager feel, about him. And he's just likable. I mean, casting is. Tobey Maguire was good when he came out for that, but and he's got an innocent way about him. But I feel like I think our current Spider-Man's probably the best one. Tom Holland's probably the best.
I think there are elements of all the Spider-Man that I really do like. I like Tobey. I actually think Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker is probably the best Peter Parker, because he's got that kind of geeky vibe, but he never gets out of that. He's a bit too much of a victim. And then Andrew Garfield was just too much of a dick. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
If you rewatch those movies, I like him, but
he's a good actor. Yeah.
The character he plays, he's just too nasty. And too cool for school, and looks way too old as well.
Tom Holland has a kind of like a surprised innocence about him. Like oh crap, about him all the time, and it's endearing,
Yeah. And then Leroy Kong doesn't hold back and says John Campea is a hack. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, Leroy. I've been a big John Campea fan for quite some time.
I enjoy his
elements
show.
Of his show. Yeah. As the show goes, I quite like it. Disney needs to renew the Spider-Man deal for 10 new Spider-Man movies from Sony. I'm pretty sure they'd love to. Whether or not it's going to happen is another thing. We have to talk to Sony about that. The merchandise revenue is enough for Disney to want Spider-Man, says Danzig. Yes, that's right. And he then says, yep, Disney owns the animated rights and merchandise rights. And then Leroy steps in with Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man. So, Leroy, yes, that's fine. I respectfully disagree, but please don't leave. Yes, and go on, Clint.
It's always funny to me. I'm a little older than you are, and that's not what's funny. But what's funny is when you think when you think about it, it's interesting to me. Like I was thinking about Star Wars, and I grew up. I was little, but I saw Empire in the theater. You know what I mean? And I grew up with Star Wars. And then, and I remember when they re-released them in the 90s. And then I remember when they released the prequels. And the prequels came out, and everyone went nuts and like dogged them. And they're like, "Oh, these are terrible. The old stuff is the good stuff. This stuff sucks." And then you fast forward years, and then the sequel trilogy comes out, and everyone now is a grown-up, and the kids that grew up with the prequels, you know, or like Star Wars Theories age and stuff, like those people are like, "Oh yeah, I hold the prequels sacred, this new and they don't say this, but I mean, like, a lot of people are like, "Oh, the new sequel trilogy is crap." And it's interesting to me. It's like 15 years from now, there's some little kids that, like my nephew's age, who love Kylo Ren and all the stuff that's happening now, and in 15 years they're gonna say, "Dude, the Kylo Ren's the best villain. All this new crap that's happening is blah." And this talk about Andrew Garfield reminds me of that. It's like everyone is gonna hold their Spider-Man as the best Spider-Man. You know what I mean? It's really funny.
And I completely get it. And you're right. You can literally just look at James Bond for an example. Like most people, I mean, my dad, for instance, is like, Sean Connery's the best. There's no, you know, there's no comparison. You can't, you know, end of discussion. And I'm like, I always liked Pierce Brosnan. That was.
I grew up with Roger Moore. Like, to me, I was like, Sean Connery, my dad likes him, so I guess he's cool. But Roger Moore is the best Bond. And then you had Timothy Dalton and you know, and the other ones came, and I'm like, these guys are no Roger Moore, but I guess they're all right. These are cool effects, you know. It's really funny. Yeah, we all hold our own things sacred, you know, and it's hard to accept new things. But sometimes you just got to accept that Tom Holland is better than Andrew Garfield. Just kidding. Don't change channels. I'm just kidding.
But you are. I think it's a nostalgia thing, isn't it? People like to remember things in their childhoods, and for many people, I mean, for me, my childhood was Tobey Maguire. That was the first Spider-Man I ever watched, and then Andrew Garfield came along, and I thought those films were horrendous. I thought they were so bad, but he was good in it. I thought the best part of Spider-Man was him.
He was good. The movies were bad. He's a great actor. Yeah, like he's a really good actor. But the movies were not the best. Clint doesn't like to speak negatively, but
bloody mosquito.
If it's a bloody mosquito, it means it just bit you.
Yeah, probably. No, you are completely right. It's like everyone will love what they got to watch when they were kids. Again, I mean, I hope there are people out there that will admit, even though the prequels came out when they were younger, that the prequels are nowhere near as good as the original trilogy. Let's just put that one to bed, please. Facts. Exactly.
But what about the sequel trilogy?
I actually think the sequel trilogy is a lot better than the prequel trilogy.
All right.
I think the prequel trilogy is just not very good.
Let the arguments begin.
What about you? What do you think, Clint?
Me, I enjoyed the sequel trilogy. I enjoyed because I wasn't at work when I saw them. I had problems with some of them, and I couldn't even wrap my mind around it at the time when I was watching them. Some of them seemed convoluted or rushed or just weird. I don't know. I don't know. I don't like them as much as the other 6. So but again,
they're at the bottom of the list for me.
Again, I had to think, you know, it's like I'm older. This is going in a new direction. New things are happening. You know, is this good or is it bad? And I have a hard time. I've talked about this before, but when I see the old actors it kind of takes me out of the film. It's hard for me. I can't even tell if they're doing a good job. It's just weird. It does something to my brain. So anyway, I like Kylo Ren.
What about the idea of seeing? Yeah, Kylo Ren's cool. What about the idea of seeing Harrison Ford back as an old Indiana Jones, like even older than he was in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
Dude is 78, man. He's 78. I was trying to think of my dad. No way. Hey man, if you got it, you got it. If they can CGI him running like the Flash, I'm just kidding. No, if they can make him get around or keep it a little realistic, because on the last one I remember
Yeah.
him running and jumping on stuff. You're probably
Yeah,
gonna
it
have
was
to
so CGI.
yeah, you're gonna have to have somebody doing probably more of the action, and he's probably gonna have more of a Sean Connery role in this thing, like right in the
Yeah.
sidecar. You know what I mean? And they should ham that up.
That'd be interesting.
They should ham that up and have him be the the old guy fumbling his notebook around, you know what I mean, and like, come on, we gotta go. You know what I mean, and
just being really grumpy.
just be a grumpy old dude like that. I mean, that's I don't know. I think that's what they should do with him, because I think if you can't make a 70-year-old man that athletic, that's just not realistic. People are just gonna it's gonna turn into a meme, you know what I mean? Like, people are gonna laugh about that. So
yeah,
they
can't have him jumping off shit. They can't do that again. I think that honestly, I think this Indiana Jones film is going to be really good. I know we kind of veered off course a bit, but I wanted to talk about it for a bit because the cast alone is incredible. Mads Mikkelsen is the villain. Yes. Boyd Hilbrook's in it. Yes. Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Yes. Yep. And then, having Harrison Ford in there. I wonder whether Phoebe Waller-Bridge is going to kind of be the Indiana Jones type character in this one, kind of be a bit like an English kind of history professor type character that like comes along for the ride or something. Apparently it's going to be about the space race as well, and Mads Mikkelsen's going to be playing a former Nazi scientist that now works for NASA. So it's going to be an interesting one. And James Mangold, fantastic director, directed one of the best comic book movies ever in Logan. And actually, I think I see a lot of Logan in this upcoming Indiana Jones film, especially the idea of there being an older Professor X or Charles Xavier and an older version of Wolverine. It just worked so well, and I think hopefully they'll do the same sort of thing with this movie. I'm really hyped for it.
That just gave me goosebumps. You talking about that? I didn't put that together. I like that, really did. Like, you can have if they play him as the old guy and do that, and it's kind of his way to pass the torch, and that's beautiful. You could have a tragic ending to Indiana Jones saving the world. That could be fantastic. It could be really good.
Yeah, I honestly think I think this one's going to be great.
I heard Harrison Ford loves the script. That's what I heard, and I know he was all about Han Solo dying. You know what I mean? So so prediction.
I'm pretty sure Indiana Jones will die. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. What they should do is have him trip and have the giant boulder just run over him, just like boom. Like, yeah. I'm just yeah, that would be good.
I agree. I'm very excited for that film. But I suppose veering away from Indiana Jones back to Star Wars land. What did you make of Star Wars: The Bad Batch Episode 7? I believe it was this week.
I enjoyed it.
What did you make of it?
I enjoy. For those of you who haven't already seen, I did a recap. I don't know if it's up yet. I don't know if the recap's up yet, but
for small screen, no, it's not. It's not.
No, it's not up yet. But I did a recap. It'll be up if you don't feel like listening to me for the next few minutes. Feel free to tune in later. But episode 7 was cool. Spoiler, they deal with their chip situation. They got a chip in their head, and they're pretty much earning money. They're doing jobs for Sid, who is the Carla from Cheers character. You guys need to go out there and get, blah blah blah. And so they're earning money, and there was a mysterious. I guessed it last time. There was a mysterious person in a hologram you saw the edge of. I thought it was going to be Ahsoka, and it wasn't Ahsoka. It was somebody else.
No.
So yeah. So but it was good. Am I supposed to do spoilers right now, or
you can do spoilers. You did say spoilers, so you can do spoilers.
Cool. So tune out if you haven't seen it. It turned out to be Rex. So
yes,
which is cool because Rex is awesome, and they end up with Rex, and then he catches wind that they still have their chips in their head, and he's like, whoa, and he gets real. He practically reaches for his gun, and gets real sketched out. and then he says, "Okay, guys, you guys, we got to fix this because you could flip at any time. You don't even know what you're capable of. I didn't know what I was capable of, and I had, it was bad. So anyway, they go over and they find a ship graveyard and on this planet and go in planet Braca, and they go into the ship graveyard into a big Jedi ship and go to the med bay and basically get these chips out of there. And Wrecker, the big guy, he flips, and it was really a beautiful episode. Like this shipyard, the sun shining, and there was some water and all that, and I was like, wow, I actually stopped and rewound it and was like, this is not just for storytelling, just beautifully done, you know what I mean? And I was like really impressed with that. Then they get into the ship, they start trying to get around, and it kind of has a creepy, like almost like Aliens vibe, where they're in the dark and things are going on. And I was like, this is cool. I feel like these artists, these people are trying to capture certain elements, and I feel like they do that. I've seen episodes of the show where they land on a planet or a rock or something, and they're outside with flashlights in the dark, and it looks like old 80s sci-fi, but it's animated, but it looks like a sci-fi movie. It was cool. Wrecker's chip at the last second goes crazy, and he starts chasing everybody, beats everybody's ass, and they finally manage to zap him with the blue stun thing, and then happy ending. Everybody gets their chips out and stuff, and then that's the condensed version. Long story short, Hunter Rambo says, well, Rex, if you need us, you know how to get a hold of us. And I don't know what that means. I was like, do they have a bat signal for clone troopers? Like, I don't know what that means, but so I'm sure we'll see them again.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that in this series.
So that was I enjoyed it. Long story short, it was 27 minutes that episode was, so longer than the last few.
Yeah, but they still feel short, and they I would say this is probably the best episode, barring the first one. I think the first episode was by far the best episode. I think this is the best one since, and it's starting to feel like this show is going somewhere. Because up until this point, I've really felt that the episodes have kind of been a lot of filler and a lot of what's her face, the young clone,
Omega
gets lost. We have to find Omega, and we found Omega, and then we go to some other planet. But this in the last episode, there was a storyline, there was a through line going through it, and I suppose that is Rex, to be honest, at the end of it, that you do see, and actually, I like the fact that they've kind of been teasing that Wreck was going to have some kind of thing happen. He's kept on moaning about his head. And then this was the that they kind of ended up with that bit, which is, yes, you're right. It was a kind of oddly beautiful moment, and
also there's a lot of relationship building that they've been doing the whole time. It's like, yes, some of these things seem drawn out for sure, but they're short ass episodes. Like, there's not much storytelling that you can do, but they do, and they've been building the relationship, like with Hunter and the kid. It's like, he's like a father figure almost, and then you have had Wrecker and Omega like getting close, and you got the big dumb, oh yeah, come on kid, and this okay, and they're hanging out and spending a lot of time together, and they set it up for later, like they're all buddying up and going out to go get snacks and walking around and spending time together, and they usually are the ones hanging out together, which builds for a beautiful bit of suspense when all of a sudden he flips and is about to kill the kid who's his best friend. That's good storytelling. You know what I mean? You could see it coming. It's like, and again, like the trash compactor with the monster in the water that's pulling them down, or other alien shows where there's something going on, they're like, stay away from the water line. I'm like, well, sooner or later somebody's going to get pulled underwater. They'll probably be gone for a long time and then out at the last second, just like Luke, and sure enough, that's what happened. They're not all new tricks. Some of them are old tricks, but it makes for fun storytelling, and this is a cartoon. It's a cartoon.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I think people forget that it's a cartoon that's made for kids, and you really feel that more so with this show than I think any of the others.
Rebels,
especially Rebels. I suppose Rebels was a bit, but I felt I'm going to be honest. I felt like the story in Rebels was there was something a bit more interesting about it. I feel this one's a bit more meandering.
Yeah, well, think about it. Not to disagree with you, but think about a couple of episodes back when Crosshair just straight up shoots civilians in the face.
Yeah,
like I was like, dude,
dark.
this is kind of dark. He just murdered some civilians. You know what I mean? So it's kind of walking the line.
You're right. Yeah, you are right. Yeah, with that you are. I forgot about that. I'm gonna be honest with you, but yeah, that was a pretty dark moment of the show. And of course, Crosshairs is going to come back at some point further down the line. I'm pretty sure he's going to end up being probably the main villain in a weird way. I think they've definitely set him up to be.
I think he's going to show up next episode because they have the medical bay right there, and they got to fix him.
Yeah.
So they're going to have some big fight, and they just that's also the other thing. At the end of the episode, the Scrappers Guild or whatever they're called called the Empire, and they're like, "Hey, intruders confirmed on the Jedi cruiser. Notify the Empire." And so the next thing you know, I bet you Crosshair is going to be the closest one by with his guys. They're going to show up. They're going to have a big fight, almost lose, and then he's either going to come out of it for just a second. He's going to be about to hurt his friends, and then he's going to like fight it, or they're gonna kick their ass and then take him into the medical bay, and they're gonna remove the chip because they're right there. They're not gonna go back to Camino to do it. So I'm predicting next episode, since they're already on Braca, they're gonna get that chip out of Crosshair's head. It's too convenient to not do that.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything? Do you think what do you think the whole deal with Omega is? Like, what's her thing?
I don't know. I really don't know. You know, I've seen people talk about, like, is she some kind of force sensitive clone? I don't know. And also, she picked that blaster up and was able to shoot right away. She couldn't shoot the bow. She couldn't shoot the bow because she wasn't strong enough physically, because she's a kid. But as far as blasters, she picked the thing up and shot like really well. So I'm wondering if she's going to have the skills of all of the clone troopers all put together, because they're all kind of like exaggerated in their own certain ways. Besides the strip, maybe she'll grow up to be a giant like Wrecker. I don't know, but I'm wondering if she's going to have be enhanced in a whole bunch of ways. Yeah, that's what I wonder.
She also knew who Sis really was. Was it Sis? Is that how you say the name? Sis.
Yes.
Yes.
I think she's just
intuitive. She knew who.
I think she's just intuitive. It's just intuitive, you know what I mean? She's like, these guys are a bunch of dummies. You're Sis, aren't you? You know what I mean? Yeah. Did I just get louder?
No, you're fine.
Okay, my mic just got loud in my ears. So I was like, oh, weird.
No. When I watched that specific moment, I was like, oh, maybe she is force sensitive. That's the time when I was a bit like, and then yes, you're right. She took the blaster and shot it perfectly. Actually ended up shooting. I think she pulled off quite a few nice shots with the bow as well towards the end of her.
Yeah, she did.
Time with that. So I do wonder whether she's going to be like a super clone.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. But there's people that have theorized because she has hair like Palpatine. They're like, she's like a clone for Palpatine. I'm like, that's just what her hair looks like. She's not a Palpatine. Like, no, they made this clone so that he can transfer his force body or force spirit into another. No, man,
people are obsessed with Palpatine clones, aren't they?
yeah. I think that's far-fetched. Yes, the hair is kind of similar, but hers isn't as receded, so I think we're okay. I don't think that's the deal. Yeah.
Well, I think ultimately we both like this show. I think I'm optimistic about where it's going. I think it's got better in the last couple of episodes. So hopefully the next few are going to be even better, and then the the finale is going to be pretty spectacular. I'm hoping, fingers crossed. I want to before I let you go, Clint. Yeah. I would like to talk about Loki, because that was the other big release of this week. Was the first episode of Loki. So and what did you make of it?
I'm here for the long haul, by the way. If you want to talk Shadow and Bone after that, I'm not going anywhere. I got nothing to do.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah.
Loki, I thought it was fantastic. I heard what you were saying at the beginning about it being a little bit almost like theater. You know what I mean? A little bit like a play. I feel like Loki's just kind of like that in general anyway. He's always kind of like, you know, and I think putting him in a world that's not the normal world. Just it does look a little bit campy, but I think it's fun. I think it's great.
I honestly, this episode for me was really all. I love seeing Owen Wilson be given something that's genuinely interesting to do again. Like I was a massive fan of Owen Wilson, like growing up, and all the films he did with Wes Anderson and stuff like that. He's a genuinely much better actor than people give him credit for, and he is so perfect for this role. And I think
Absolutely.
I do wonder whether I wonder whether like just it's made for that kind of interaction between him and Tom Hiddleston as Loki. Literally, Tom Hiddleston in this is really on his A game as well. Like there is so much brilliant Shakespearean acting going on and comedy as well. And actual like this it's really interesting watching this show because we're watching an old version of Loki. So watching Tom Hiddleston play an older version of Loki, a Loki that hasn't progressed as he did in the MCU and ended up dying a hero, which is what Loki did. And actually have to watch all of that. I thought that was a very impactful scene. I just love the TVA as well. I love the fact that a guy that works for the TVA doesn't know what a fish is. I think that's just brilliant.
People were saying that, like I've heard several different people on shows and stuff say that. How could he not know what a fish is? You know what I mean? And I think
I thought it was funny.
That guy's either been reset. Either the guy's a variant, he's been reset to play that role, or he was physically created for that job, and that's all he knows how to do. There's one of two things, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and so so they're like, how could he be in charge of all time? Like that guy's not in charge of all time. He's in charge of that desk. He's that. Yeah. That's that guy's purpose is that desk, and that's where he is. And so and I don't see any fish at his desk. You know, he knows what you know. The interesting thing about the show is like Loki is such an interesting character, and like you said, he's it's the old Loki who didn't redeem himself and become a good guy in the end, and he's diabolical. and I was watching this the first time, I was like, wow. And it's like, okay, you got these guys basically saying, look, you were about to be killed, but we're going to give you a chance to basically repent, and then maybe you can be on our team, right? Is kind of what the deal is. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to show you your life, Ghost of Christmas Past style, and let you see how you've behaved and what you're doing, and then you can choose to be good and come with us, or it could be that, hey, we're doing all this stuff to basically fool you into thinking that we're good and we're going to control you, and we need you to go do something. And it's another, like, I don't necessarily know that the Time Variance Authority is good. And also the other thing too is I don't necessarily think they broke Loki. That's the thing. It's like they make it look like, okay, he's trapped, he's powerless, and then they finally, after all these things, they broke him, and then he's going to go off and work with them, almost for them. I don't necessarily think that's true. I watched it twice, and after watching it the second time, I'm looking at everything and I'm thinking, okay, no, what is Loki? Loki is one, he's diabolical, right? And he's mischievous, but he's diabolical, and he's always looking at stuff and looking for the greatest power, for one, and he's always looking at things, and if something and he's also got a huge ego and thinks he is great, and when things don't line up with that, he stops, and then he almost physically does it. He'll stop and he'll go, and then he's thinking about the thing, and he goes, okay, and he'll change his plan he's constantly rechanging his plan based on analysis of what's going on around him. And so in this, he's going around, and I think it's like, okay, you saw it when he sees he gets the Tesseract, because that's the greatest power that's going to help him. And then all of a sudden he sees the Infinity Stones, and he's like, oh, okay. And he has an epiphany. He says, oh, this is not the greatest power in the universe for me to be the greatest god. This is the greatest power.
Exactly.
And he's like, but it's not like I'm going to be subservient or I give up. No, that's not how he thinks. He thinks, how can I manipulate these guys into letting me take their power. And that's how Loki thinks. So Loki goes back to his room and he's sitting there, and then he watches the thing and he sees some things that are emotional and hurt him and stuff. But the thing that got me is when he starts laughing. He's like, and he's like, great purpose, huh? You know, when he sees himself die, and it makes the audience think, great purpose, huh? Yeah, look, I was a failure. I didn't become a huge god. I was a failure. That's not necessarily what he's saying. I think he's laughing because he says, great purpose. I am destined for great purpose, and I dodged another bullet. I dodged another bullet. I would have died right there had the universe decided not to pull me in here, and I'm not done yet. Let's play ball and take the power. And I think a lot of people just think that he was laughing like, oh, what a failure I am. Now, that's not Loki. Loki is like, okay, I dodged another bullet, because I'm a badass and I'm destined for greatness. Now let's go take this time power and become the. And I think that's the real deal. I don't think he was. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think they made it look like he.
I do wonder whether him seeing himself be killed by Thanos was a moment that made him think, okay, well, if that's how I die in that like timeline, I think I've been given a second chance to avoid this and actually become even more powerful. So I do wonder. And Loki only ever cares about one person, and that's Loki
himself. That's why he starts laughing. He's like, ha, 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 you can't get Loki. I'm destined for greatness. Let's do, as my dad would say, the sun shines on a dog's ass every once in a while. That's what my dad would say. But go ahead.
I wonder what the big reveal at the end of the episode means, because Owen Wilson's character, is it Morbius or Morbus? I can't remember how you pronounce it.
Morbius, yeah.
Morbius says that
it's Mobius. Sorry,
Mobius. Morbius is someone that is a vampire.
Yeah.
The end of the episode says that the variant they're looking for is Loki. He doesn't actually say it's Loki. He says it's you.
Right.
And I'm wondering whether a previous version of Loki that this has happened before,
Absolutely.
And he has realized how powerful the TVA is and is trying to get the power for himself.
This is why the judge. I didn't mean to cut you off.
You keep on saying.
Oh,
no.
I was going to say that's why the judge looks at Owen Wilson and is like, you can't be serious. You've already screwed this up one time by getting Loki to do something, and now you can't be wanting to do this again. And he's like, yeah, I want to do this. It's nice looking up at you. You know what I mean? But
I've got a very good feeling about this one. Yeah, this time is going to work. I swear. Yeah.
And I think that's what. That's pretty good, man. And I think that's why the time guard or time cop or whatever she is has it out for him so much, is because she's already had to deal with this. You know what I mean? That's why.
Yeah.
He probably double crossed her before, and that's why they're out there trying to get him in the first place.
But also the way that the very first scene you have with Owen Wilson is in a church in France, where he sees the kids and he talks to the kid and he sees that the kid's been given a stick, like some sort of sweet that makes his mouth blue, and to me that screams like mischief, like Loki. Who else would give it's like he gave him this sweet that's like kind of a weird makes his mouth a weird color and stuff.
Kaplooey, I think it was called Kaplooey gum. I think
Kaplooey, yeah. And there was definitely something in there, and I know that the minute they show the devil, when he points to, and then everyone's going to say, "Oh my God, Mephisto's going to be in this." I'm like, no, they're not doing Mephisto. They're not. I was actually surprised that they even showed the devil in this. To be honest,
it's just to be a horned guy that's supposed to represent Loki is all that's supposed to be.
Exactly, I think, and we know that Loki's going to have his horns in this one because we've seen it. Yeah. So go on. So keep
Yeah.
on saying. Go on.
Oh, I feel like I read somewhere that the director or showrunner, somebody has already confirmed. I don't hold me to it because I don't have a name, but I feel like I heard that they already confirmed that's not supposed to be Mephisto. They're like, relax, guys, it's not Mephisto. That's not what it is. But
do you reckon they're going to bring Mephisto into the MCU?
I
Genuinely.
don't know. I have no idea.
People
they say
are desperate for it.
Yeah, but they say because of but China not allowing demons to be shown and the money, the potential money from China, they're not gonna do that. It's the reason, from what I understand. So
and I see a lot of people in the chat saying that they're saying so. Official Phil Millen says I think the TVA is controlled by Kang the Conqueror, and then apparently this is something that. Danzy agrees with, says I've heard something similar tapped that Kang is one of the timekeepers. So we know that Kang or who's the actor that they cast for Ant-Man 3 to play the role.
I don't have it on me, but
let me have a look. This is it's Jonathan Majors.
Yes.
It's Jonathan Majors, who was in Lovecraft Country.
Yes,
he's really good in that, actually.
He's going to be in the new Creed also.
Yeah, he is, and so it seems to be as though he's playing Kang the Conqueror, but that hasn't actually been officially announced. I don't think. Is it official? Oh no, it is official. Well, apparently, it is official. But that seems like a very big character to just kind of reveal like that. So I mean.
The other thing that they were saying is that little cartoon that they had that showed the story of the time of the TVA, and it shows the cartoons of the timekeepers, and there's 3 of them.
Yes.
The one in the middle is like the spitting image of Kang. It looks like Kang. So there's been a lot of people like, that's Kang. So I don't know.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Kang the Conqueror will come into this at some point. Marvel Studios has already looked to cast someone for the role. Very, very good casting, if you ask me. So I'm pretty sure he'll factor into this somehow. I'm not sure if they'll reveal him in Ant-Man before Ant-Man 3 though. That's something I'm not, because we know that Kevin Feige likes these shows to kind of be their own thing, and nothing too major happen in these shows, and they kind of be like tight and just not, so that people that just watch the movies don't feel too lost. If something major happens in one of the series, then that'll kind of throw off a lot of viewers that don't actually watch the Disney Plus shows yet, like the Disney Plus Marvel shows yet. So I don't think they'll reveal Kang the Conqueror in Loki. I think the villain of this will be Loki versus Loki. That's what it's going to be.
There's talk,
which is interesting in itself.
Yeah, there's talk. There's going to be Lady Loki in this at some point too. I don't know if you've
maybe.
heard that.
Yeah, and I mean there's talk there's going to be what Loki's going to be played by a woman at one point, and this is like Loki in disguise, basically, isn't it?
And they show his file at some point when he's getting checked in or something, and it says it on
gender fluid.
Yeah.
He's gender fluid, Loki is gender fluid. So I mean, a lot is happening already in this first episode. I thought this first episode was really, really promising. I'm much more into this show than I have been into any of the other Marvel shows. I think this is just stronger. I think maybe there's something about it that I think WandaVision was stronger than Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think the ending was just disappointing. That was the thing that disappointed me. I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier was fine, but I think that really suffered from massive, they had to rework the show completely. And you can kind of tell because of the pandemic, because it was originally going to feature a virus plotline, which they then got rid of. And I think that really hurt the show. I think this is a show that's self-contained, has really good actors in it. We're going to get, not only do we have Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson in it, we're also going to get Richard E. Grant, who is one of my favorite actors of all time, is going to be in this. I'm really excited to see what he does. You've got Gugu Mbatha-Raw, who's in the first episode. She's brilliant in everything she's in. And I just feel like this is just one of the wackiest kind of Marvel things they've ever done. And more Loki, more Tom Hiddleston. Yes, please give it to me. I think he's brilliant in it. I think he's fantastic. The first episode when he's going down those chutes that just him being like, I am Loki, and it's like no one gives a shit, man.
Yeah.
Do
you know
it's
who
probably
I
because they've
am?
seen this before. Yeah, it's probably because they've seen it all before. But I also like the kind of, there's almost there's that kind of mystery vibe about it as well, with the murder mystery thing. There's almost like a what's the show, True Detective feel in a weird way, when he's looking, they haven't gone full True Detective. That would have been cool, but there's an element of that with the detective kind of Owen Wilson having to figure out what's going on, and I really like it. I just really liked it.
It's a lot more sci-fi feeling too, you know what I mean? And there's like a weird it's a weird feeling of like kind of like Beetlejuice when they go, you end up in a weird place where like, where am I? You know what I mean? And it's like office themed, not the TV show, but like, what I mean? And it's cool. Like they'll mix in like modern technology with like 60s looking stuff. And it's just really cool. Even the credits and things, everything was really well thought out and really well done. And I think they did a beautiful job. So kudos to those guys. Like, it was really fun. And the music, everything. I remember sitting there just watching and like, wow, this is cool. And I wanted it to go on for 2 hours. Like I wanted it to be a movie and finish, finish watching the movie. I'm like, crap, I got to wait a week for this. But
this is the feeling I've had with all of their Marvel stuff, though.
this one more than the others. The other ones felt more like TV shows, and this one felt more like a movie. And also, like you said, Owen Wilson, super likable. Like that's an important thing in like storytelling. You need to make people feel for these characters or relate to the characters and like the characters. Owen Wilson's just super likable, very level-headed, and it's just funny. He's dealing with this disruptive guy, and I don't know, you just like him. And then Loki, we already loved Loki, but they did a great job of making us feel for him. He's like, with all this drama and like, even getting a lump in your throat at one point, watching his mom die and all this, like, and I feel like that means he's going to have a victory on the next. Like he's been broken down and felt emotion and hurt. That means next episode he's going to have some victory, and we're going to like be celebrating with him at some point. I don't know what's going to happen, but something's going to happen. I guarantee it.
You said something quite interesting after you'd watched the show. You told me that Tom Hiddleston should play Bond.
I think so, man. There's the DB Cooper part. He plays. If you haven't seen it, guys, there's a part where they're talking about the things he's done in his life, and they're like, and then that time you were DB Cooper, which was a bet that he had with Thor. And it's really cool. He's got sunglasses, short hair, suit, and he's very suave. And even the thing that did it is that the flight attendant, who should be horrified, is like, much like a Bond. She was worked up over him, and it was like, oh, here you go, and I thought, perfect. I was like, dude, that's Bond right there. So
he's wanted that role for years.
Yeah, he's a little. I mean, he's a little goofier looking of a guy. God, Tom, if you ever hear me that I said that, I mean it in an endearing way. I don't mean. I mean like we've talked about Henry Cavill being Bond, and he's like perfectly structured face. Tom Hiddleston's a good looking man. He's just not as much of a model looking guy as the other guy. He's more. I think of him as more of a smart. Academy Award winning actor. I don't think of him as the chiseled, good looking actor. I'm just digging myself in a hole. If Tom ever sees this, I'm done. But yeah, I think he would.
Don't worry.
Honestly, I think he would be a fantastic 007. He's 40 years old. I don't know if that makes him too old for that or not. But
he's a bit on the older side, yeah. But Danzig says many said the same thing when Hiddleston did The Night Manager, which is a show. Actually, if you want to see Tom Hiddleston basically be Bond, then watch The Night Manager, because he is basically Bond in that show. It's a really good show. Also, I think it has Ray Fiennes in it as well. It's a very, very good show. And Leroy Kong says, of course, Henry Cavill would be a better Bond. Loads of people want Henry Cavill, but don't think that's ever going to happen. Shall we move away from Loki and on to some actual like news that was was broken, but by us, but nobody noticed.
What do you got? What do you got?
Yeah, so Shadow and Bone season 2
Yeah.
has been renewed by Netflix. So we have, can confirm now, we have got an interview going up on the site at some
Cool.
point in the not so distant future with Jeremy Webb. And Jeremy Webb is one of the directors of Shadow and Bone. He also directed some episodes of The Punisher. He directed episodes of Legion, of The Runaways. He is a British director, originally started off on British productions, like he did episodes of Doctor Who, of Merlin, and then he was nominated for an Emmy for an episode he did on Downton Abbey. So he's a very, very talented director, and he directed the last 2 episodes of Shadow and Bone, which in my view are the best episodes of Shadow and Bone. So he directed the penultimate episode and the finale, and we broke the news that Shadow and Bone had been renewed for season 2, and that was back on the 25th of May. We put that article up, and then a lot of other sites a couple of days ago we don't put exclusives. That's the thing. I don't put exclusive on my articles. I just write what I've been told, and a lot of other websites put exclusives in all caps, and they try and get away with it. But I think it was the Hollywood Reporter, wasn't it? Then did break the news that Shadow and Bone, was it Hollywood Reporter?
Well, Eric Kaiser announced it on Twitter. And if anybody wants to know what that looks like, it looks like this. Boom. In January, Netflix sent us off to write the scripts with hopes that we'd get renewed. We'd get renewed and could hit the ground running. This is common practice, but man, I need to learn how to read. But it's just as common. You do all the writing and don't get picked up. So we're lucky and thrilled to continue. Finally, at the end of April, I took a Twitter hiatus to manage the daunting final month of season 2 writing, and it did wonders for my mental health. So I will vanish into the shadows again, friends, and passing ping, blah blah blah. Okay, anyway, and then Alex said, what did it say? Anyway, this is just Eric Heiser giving a shout out to the people that helped construct season 2, and then it came out in like the Hollywood Reporter or whatever. But these were the Twitter things. So that was I just threw those up there just so I'd have them ready. It's like I knew we were going to talk about this. It's weird.
It's like you knew it, so it's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. But and I know that this show is watched for 1.2 billion minutes in the US.
Yes.
It debuted over the weekends, which is crazy. It's got 87 at Rotten Tomatoes. It's got a 90% audience score, which is fantastic. So, and it was at number 1 for 12 days. So there's your stats.
It was, and watched, in the first 4 weeks, watched by 55 million households, which is a lot for a new show. And it began. Netflix's metrics are a bit weird. They count 2 minutes as a watch, so that's how they do their things. But I really think this is really good news because it's a really good show. Go on.
I was going to say which is cheating if you're talking about Jupiter's Legacy, because I turned it off after 2 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. I shouldn't talk, shouldn't talk smack. I'm sorry, guys.
That's fine if you're telling the truth. I think you watched the whole thing. Though.
I watched the whole thing.
So I hope you did. I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
But with this show, I watched the whole thing because I think it's that good, and I don't always watch the whole. I don't always watch a lot of Netflix shows the whole way through. I tend, if they're not really speaking to me, I tend to just say, look, I don't have that much time to waste on this that I'm not enjoying, which was going to be the case with Jupiter's Legacy, but we're going to talk about it on the show, so I had to finish it. But with Shadow and Bone, I really just loved every episode, and I loved the characters, and I love the world they were creating. It's kind of a steampunk kind of like fantasy vibe going on. And I think Ben Barnes is brilliant in it. I think the lead actress is really good. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. I really like the character, the kind of
something
the younger
Mei Lee,
guy. Yeah, Mei Lee is is it Jessica Mei Lee? Something like that. Maybe
something.
I can't. But she's really good, and I really like the guy that's you're better at this than me, remembering names and stuff. But he's the character that has a limp. that has a cane.
Oh,
that walks
you're
with a
talking
cane.
about Freddie Carter, who plays Kaz
Freddie
Brucker.
Carter.
Yeah, plays
Yeah,
Kaz.
brilliant.
He's
Brilliant
fantastic,
character.
dude. I really liked
Yeah.
Inej. Inej was his his ninja girlfriend,
Yes.
basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
she was awesome. That's the thing. I talked about it in a video that did. The whole thing about this show is the casting was just fantastic. Jesse May Lee is Alina Starkov.
Jesse May Lee. Yeah,
Ben
yeah.
Barnes, we already liked him. He was awesome.
Yeah.
Everyone shined in this thing. Something interesting, and also people are curious what the second season is going to be about. They haven't really announced that yet. I've seen some things in comments, looking in different chats that have said, "Oh, they're going to do this." One person said, "Oh, they're going to do." They're going to do 5 seasons. I haven't found anything that confirms that. I found a thing that said that they could do up to 3 seasons. But the thing about this is there's a lot of material. There's 1 trilogy, 2 duologies, which I'd never even heard duologies. 8 short stories and 2 companion novels involved in this, like this universe, the Grishaverse. So they could really go to town. The thing about this thing is that I didn't know is they combined different books to make the first season of the show. Which I don't know if you knew that, Edward, but
I think is it the 2 first books?
No, it's the first book is Shadow and Bone, and then they had this other duology with that was Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, and it was 2 different stories. So like the Shadow and Bone is actually like it's the story of Alina Starkov, and it's kind of the chosen one kind of a story that we're familiar with, you know, like and that she's like the chosen one. And then you had this other book that actually happens in the future. It takes place after Shadow and Bone. Siege of the Storm, Ruin the Rising, who are the other books in the trilogy. After that comes Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, and that's where you get the Dregs. And Dregs is Kaz, who you were talking about, Inej, and Jesper, and that whole crew. That's like a crew that does heists and all that. Their book is more of a heist thing of their gang going off and doing stuff, and it's more people that are not special, like the Chosen One or magical. It's like more normal people. And that's what their adventures are all about. And what's funny is Eric Heiser, the showrunner. Yeah, he had read Six of Crows before the other stuff, and he was a big fan of that. But he's supposed to do Shadow and Bone, and so, but he's like kind of loves the other books too. And he says, you know what, I want to put these together. And at first, Lee Berdugo, the author, she was kind of like, I don't know about that. And then he kind of explained, like, well, you know, they're more of a heist situation, and what if they take Alina Starkov, and then these guys go, and she was like, I'm following you, and they kind of just figured it out, and so I thought it was fascinating that because it would have been a real focused one-dimensional story, but now all of a sudden, because you include this other storyline going on over here, it's almost like the Targaryens over here, and then you got Winterfell over here, and it makes it more of a vast universe and a bigger story, and it just makes it more enjoyable, you know, bouncing around like that. And I thought it was cool. So anyway,
but so they did a really good job bringing those 2 stories together. And I do wonder what they're going to do next. I have seen people claim that it's like they want to make 5 seasons of it. A lot of it comes from We Got This Covered, so I wouldn't trust them 100%.
I've heard Siege and Storm, which is the second book, that there's a lot of people that say it's probably going to be based off of that, which makes sense.
We're going to have to read these books.
For real. Let's see here. There was a Collider article. Heiser said
did an interview with.
And basically said, my house looks like a crazy person's house. There's like storyboards and pictures and things all over the place, and which I imagine I've never written anything like that. I've worked on a script with some friends and stuff, but I've never done anything as extensive as a universe like this with like pre-written material where you get to create. I can't imagine how much fun that would be. You know, I'm a geek that loves to watch this stuff, but I would love to at least just be a fly on the wall and watch them put something like that together. It sounds awesome. But anyway, the pretty much the article, they basically say what I told you earlier about, there's a trilogy, 2 duologies, a bunch of short stories, and a companion book and stuff, novels and stuff. So
there's a lot of stuff to this world.
Tons of content. So
I'd
I'd
never even heard about it before the Netflix show was announced. I'm going to be honest, like it wasn't on my radar at all.
Me neither.
But YA sometimes goes a bit over my head because it is YA basically, it's young adult stuff.
Yeah.
No?
Well, I could tell you they have a passionate fan base because I put out some news videos about this stuff and posted some things, and I've been getting comments and likes and all kinds of stuff. And they're a very active fan base, and I think this thing is just from what I've seen of this, I think that's going to grow and grow and grow. I think it's going to be huge, like Game of Thrones. Maybe not quite Game of Thrones big, but almost.
It's already pretty huge, so I think this is they're looking at this as a kind of almost not. I think they're looking at The Witcher as their sort of Game of Thrones type show, but this one is definitely something that they think they can get a lot out of, and I think I really am excited for this second season, and I hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to be as good as the first one. They got a lot of very, very talented people involved in this show, so I wouldn't really be worried about it. But if you haven't checked out Shadow and Bone yet, do go and watch it, because it's more than just YA. A lot of people kind of like to say that YA is not that great, but this is actually, there's something more here. There's some fantasy elements to it. There's some steampunky elements to it. There's a bit of Harry Potter-ish stuff to it as well, with the whole Chosen One type stuff that's going on. I just think there's a lot of very good stuff in there, and there's some pretty cool monsters in it as well. So,
and half of the I don't mean to interrupt you, man. I was just going to say half of the battle with the show is casting. Like Friends was a huge success because of casting. This show is successful as it is because of the cast. They're a fantastic cast. I'm out. Awesome. That was all I wanted to say.
I'm glad we could go over Shadow and Bone, because it's a really good show, and I think we should cover it more, and I think we should probably do a video on it somewhere down the line and talk about it in more detail. Might cut this out actually and put this out as a clip, which would be fun. And if I do so, I will cut it here. There we go. Let's go and have a look at what people are saying, because I think some people are asking about the show in particular.
Cool.
So here we go. I need to finish Sweet Tooth before starting Shadow and Bone. You guys making me feel better about starting it. Sounds good. That's good. We want everyone to watch it. And then By the Bidder Zeus says, is it family friendly? Yes, it is family friendly. I think you can watch it. There's some elements of it that might be a bit scary for some people, but it is a family friendly show, and that was something that a lot of people, especially Jeremy Webb, the director, he does a lot of kind of family friendly stuff, and he really liked that aspect of it as well. By the Bidder Zeus then says, sorry to be off topic, but I'd like to see Mindhunter get a 3rd season. I believe you touched on it on your website, Edward. Any words? Yes, the word is that they're getting close to a deal. That's the last article we published about it, is that David Fincher is interested in doing a 3rd season of Mindhunter, something that he wasn't interested in doing a while back. But it seems as though Netflix is very keen on getting the ball rolling on this one again, because the show was never cancelled. What they did, which is kind of what they do with Jupiter's Legacy, is they released everyone from their contracts. The difference between Jupiter's Legacy and Mindhunter is that the actors actually enjoyed working on the show and really want to do a 3rd season, and the show's also really good. So it didn't get. The one thing I will say about it is it cost a lot of money, but it didn't cost anywhere near as much money as Jupiter's Legacy. But it did, at the time, cost Netflix a lot of money, and it didn't quite get the return on investment that they wanted. It didn't get the amount of views that they wanted it to get. But what it did get was critical acclaim. The show was incredibly well received. What the big problem though with it is that it took a lot out of David Fincher. David Fincher literally read the scripts for season 2 that had been written, hated them, and chucked them out and rewrote the whole thing. Literally directed the whole thing basically on his own. Like, he was the director of most of it, and he said it was basically working a 90-hour work week on that show. It was a lot, took a lot out of him. He then wanted to go away and do other things, so he went and made Mank. It looks like he wants to come back to it. So that's where we are now. We're being told that there's ongoing negotiations between him and Netflix. That's the last thing I've been told, and I will let you know if I hear anything else. But hopefully it's happening. Hopefully there is some hope anyway. And then Thomas Wayne goes back to Shadow and Bone and says Shadow and Bone is great, much better than Jupiter. I don't think there's a comparison to be made. Yeah.
I just read an article that was actually comparing. It was talking about
Really?
Jupiter's legacy, and I'll send it to you after this. But
I need to read that.
Yeah, and it pretty much put the stats. The interesting thing is Jupiter's Legacy on the second week increased their 46% increase in views. So it's like the first week with the Nielsen ratings, the first week it was like 696 million views, and then the second week it was like 1.02 billion views. So it's like it went almost doubled, in views.
Yeah.
And then it talks about the behavior of Shadow and Bone too, and all that. But it's interesting. The funny thing,
that's unusual.
Yeah, the weird thing is
it goes up after.
Yeah, and Shadow and Bone does it too. It just means that people start talking about it, people start writing about it, and then after you see these articles on small screen and stuff, you're like, oh, I got to check this show out, So,
and hear about it on this show as well.
Of course.
By the bit, Azu says, I see why you needed to take a break, then. Thank you for responding. No worries. I think Fincher, it took a lot out of Fincher, I think, Mindhunter. But I've heard I mean, hopefully it will happen because everyone wants a season 3, including one of the actors. I can't remember his name now. He's plays one of the leads in the show. I'm blanking on his name. But I have it on good authority that he is desperate to do Mindhunter season 3. Danzig asks, did you hear any further news on the Aya cut, Ed? At the moment, it's kind of, it seems as though it's just radio silence on that, and I think a lot of that has to do with the merger with Discovery. So I do wonder whether a lot of those sorts of potential projects have really been put on hold as they try and work out what the hell they're doing. I think we've discussed it before. WarnerMedia is in a bit of a bizarre state. So I still think they'll release the Aya cut. I had it on good authority that this movie was basically edited back in, I think it was April. It was finished and ready to be released. But who knows what's going to happen with that thing? Hopefully, the fact that the likes of Sarnoff might be gone by 2023 might mean that they'll just say, you know what, let's release this. Let's do like a director's cut and just release it straight to HBO Max. Makes sense. And I think a lot of people will like it. Will love to watch it. It'll do very well for HBO Max. Don't you think, James? Sorry, not James. James not here. Clint.
I think so. They're like, well, let's put this thing out on Discover Brothers Plus and just get some more subscriptions. I mean, it's
got to be called Discovery Bros Plus. No, Discovery Bros Plus.
Discover Brothers, because you got to take the R from the Warner.
Discover Brothers, yeah.
Yeah, Discover Brothers. I mean, it would be silly to have a thing that millions and millions of people want to see, have it sitting on your desk and not put it on your streaming service. You don't even have to. You don't even have to. I mean, you don't have to send it to theaters. You don't have to do anything. All you got to do is just throw it on the streaming service, and the public will do the rest. Like, you don't even have to market the thing. You could just put it on there and not say anything. It would explode. It would be even more of a thing than if you advertised it. People would freaking lose their mind.
And I know that by the bit of Zeus would, and he says, Zaslav, don't let us down. I can't say his name properly. That's a difficult one to say for me. I'm sorry.
Zaslav.
And Zaslav. He also says, hopefully it survives that dumpster fire. Hopefully it does. And I think on that note, we will say goodbye. I'll let you go, Clint, because we've been doing this for longer than we usually do. And we've been talking about so much stuff.
I'm having a good time, so I'm here. If you're trying to run me off, I'll see you later. I'm just kidding. No, where can you find me?
It's just late for me now. Yeah, exactly. Where can you find me? Yeah.
You can find me at youtube.com/Clint Baker channel or the OG Clint Baker on Twitter. If you want to email me, if you want to message me or whatever, you can find me there. And I put videos about things like this both on small screen and my own channel. So and I look forward to seeing you guys soon. And Edward, I always have a good time chatting with you, man.
And please do go and check out Clint everywhere. The channel is brilliant. You're doing some brilliant stuff on there, Clint.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
actually
you very
rather
much.
jealous of some of the stuff you're doing. I'm going to be honest. It's really, really good.
Oh.
Very good quality. Very good content. And I know
Thank
you don't
you.
like that word, but it is very good content.
No, it's it's. I've been having a good time. You know, it's. I used to do a stream much like this where I talk with my buddy Dirk, and he's just not able to do it anymore. And so I just started doing solo videos. But for me to get on a stream and be able to chat with people in the chat with people in the chat is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for having me on. I always have a great time.
It's lovely having you on all the time, Clint. And you can follow us at Small Screen Co. Right, you can see it right down in the would that be your left? You'll be your left-hand corner, I think, if you're watching this. It's
on the right.
It's there. It's on the right. I don't know if it flips it or whatever. It's underneath Clint, Small Screen Co. And you can go to the website as well, which is at small-screen.co.uk. And you know what? If you want to follow me, you can do that as well. That's at EJ Lauder, and I just post stuff about. Actually, sometimes I tease some articles that are coming out on Small Screen, some things I've been working on solidly for quite some time. There are some things that are coming out, so do keep a close eye on that. We are constantly working to this. It's just been brilliant doing this, and we've got some interesting articles coming out on stuff, so hopefully you'll enjoy that as well. Some good news as well, not always bad news. I always seem to be giving people bad news. I feel bad about that, but yes. So you can follow us there, and I hope you have a lovely weekend, guys. And you know what? I'm going to say this: enjoy the Euros, because the Euros are happening at the moment in Europe. The soccer. Ooh. So I hope everyone enjoys that if you're into football, as it's actually called. So yeah. Football. Thanks, Clint. Thanks, guys. Man. And we'll see you in the next one. Cheers and goodbye.